very important documentary, Endgame Blueprint for Global Enslavement. Those can all ship right now if you order them. If you want to pre-order The Obama Deception, you can check out the website at theobamadeception.net. That's theobamadeception.net. A lot of folks are pre-ordering that film. Those that pre-order will have it shipped out first. It'll be shipped out in the order that the orders were received. So again, theobamadeception.net, or call toll free to secure your copy today, 888-253-3139. And I want everybody that orders The Obama Deception or any of the films I've made to make copies. I want you to get a DVD burner. I want you to buy a bunch of blanks, and please get these out to everybody, because he is a front man. He is a corporate shill. He is betraying the well-meaning people that rejected Bush's phony wars and fake WMDs and torture and corruption and claiming all this executive power and secrecy. Obama is now announcing all of that is going to continue. The executive secrecy, all of it. This is an incredible betrayal. The lobbyists, the money, the bankers robbing us. The film gets into the issues that can't be debated. You can debate if he was really born in Kenya. You can debate the birth certificate, all that stuff. The media focused on that because they weren't afraid of it. They will not focus on his deceit and his lies and his betrayals and the corrupt special interest that are controlling him. So the ObamaDeception.net or 888-253-3139. Bob, I want to go to phone calls. Matt, Glenn, Drew, Michael, Nick, and many others from all over the country and the world that are calling in. But Bob Dacey, first, you've got some more lies of the media. I want you to go through some of those, and then let's get into how they're trying to shut down the alternative media.
Yeah. Well, talking about lies in the media, let's just pick one. What about the bailout coverage? I remember the last time I was live in studio with you was the day that the House of Representatives rejected the initial bailout. I think that was like September the 30th or something like that. I went home and I watched the news, and they were saying that they saw the stock market drop after the House rejected the bailout package. And the media was saying, listen, look at the dollar value we lost in the market because you didn't vote for this thing. It was more than the bailout. I mean, they actually presented that as if that was some sort of a cause and effect relationship, or actually had a meaning to it.
And that was financial terrorism. What really happened is having the president and Obama and the head of the Federal Reserve and the Treasury Department come out and say, we're going into a depression. If you don't pass this, we'll be destroyed by next Monday. That destroyed confidence in the market, dropped, and it's dropped 2,000 points almost since that point. And then the day after they pass it, they say, oh, we're not going to use it anymore to buy up bad debt from these mortgages. We're not going to say where it's going.
You know, and where was the screaming banner headlines in the media that day? They were lying to us. They're not going to bail out the bad mortgages. Where was it? It was nowhere. The spin was elsewhere. That's
well, they moved on from the 9.7 trillion banker takeover, not 800 billion. Bloomberg's reported 9.7. They won't see where the money went. To should we give $50 billion to the auto companies, a pittance, and made it all a debate about that as a diversion.
Yeah, I mean, you take the fluoride coverage. Oh, I'm sorry, what fluoride coverage? Where is that? I mean, there's tons of evidence about how bad fluoride is.
But the feds have spent billions of dollars forcing this in our water.
And where is the front page media coverage giving fair presentation to this? It's not there. Where is it?
Instead, in the name of being fair, Clinton, Hillary, and Bill Clinton, a bunch of U.S. senators are saying, we're not just going to have fairness doctrine and control what you can say and do on the radio. We're going to do it on the Internet. And Canada's announced they're about to start censoring the Internet to only a few thousand websites. It's actually in the Toronto Star.
Yeah, and take a look at the vaccine thing. I mean, just the other day in the paper, they're saying right here in the Statesman that the evidence fails to link autism to vaccines, court declares. So a court has ruled that there's no evidence linking autism to vaccines.
And then out of out of hundreds of studies, including government studies showing that mercury does cause brain damage and go through the blood-brain barrier, they ignore those and use one guy who claims he found evidence it was autism to have him say he faked it, as if it's all discredited.
Yeah.
As if we haven't gone in 1975 from 1 in... What's the number? I'm trying to pull up the exact number. 1 in 2,600 having autism to now 1 in 87.
Yeah, and take any issue, the global warming issue, for example. I mean, the media presents global warming as if it is a fact,
and that polar bears can't swim,
and that there's no debating. There's nothing you can say. It's a fact, and you people got to deal with it, and that we caused it. You know, I've got some quotes here from some very famous scientists who just laugh at that assertion. You know, from the New American, here's one from a doctor in Norwegian doctor. He says, quote, anyone who claims that the debate is over and that the conclusions are firm has a fundamentally unscientific approach to one of the most momentous issues of our time. And here's one from U.S. government atmospheric scientist Stanley B. Goldenberg of the Hurricane Research Division of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Quote, it is a blatant lie put forth in the media that makes it seem like it is only a fringe of scientists who don't buy into anthropological global warming. I mean, come on.
Because it goes in a 10,000-year cycle.
Yeah.
The last Bronze Age started during a 3,000-year warming period, and then they had a mini warm period about 1,000 years ago, and they were growing grapes all over England where you can't even grow grapes today. And they know this from the ice core samples. They understand this. And then the UN claimed they had 2,400 scientists that had signed on saying man-made global warming was real. And then they went and questioned the scientists. The scientists said, no, we were just invited to a conference. I don't agree with this. So they say everyone agrees. Then all these scientists, tens of thousands, come out and say, no, we don't. And they say, well, everybody who's credible agrees. Then they claim you're funded by the oil companies if you cite the science that the entire solar system has been heating up, and now the sun just cooled off, so suddenly the solar system is cooling.
Now, here's a quote from a Dr. David G., the chairman of the Science Committee of the 2008 International Geological Congress. Listen to this quote. For how many years must the planet cool before we begin to understand that the planet is not warming? For how many, I mean, come on, that's funny, isn't it funny? Isn't that hilarious? The thing's cooling down now, but, you know, they shifted. Now, they've shifted. They said, well, now it was global warming and it's your fault, Alex. But now it might be global cooling and it's still your fault, Alex.
And they're saying it's climate change, as if we don't have 4 seasons, as if we haven't always gone through cycles.
They can't even predict the weather in Austin, Texas a week from now accurately.
Well, the insane part about it is that they've built this carbon-based economy, and I'm not even saying oil is a good system because it's toxic and it's in the cracking and the refining of it. But the point here is that, you know, when the Super Bowl and ExxonMobil are telling you global warming's real and we need a tax, that it's a scam. And then Al Gore, with the World Bank and the IMF, owns the major company that we will buy carbon credits from. This guy stands to, and by the way, he owns an oil company. Al Gore is an oilman. He owns an oil company. Al Gore owns the major carbon trading company that we're going to buy our carbon credits from. I mean, think about that. Al Gore owns the major carbon trading company that we will buy carbon credits from. And here's another one. Let's say global warming's real. It's all man-made. It's all true. Nobody's lying. You know, the polar bears can't swim. You know, the glaciers are all melting. We're all dead. Unless we have this tax, they admit that it'll only be on Western nations, and so the industry will move to China and India and 160 other third world countries that will have no emissions controls, so emissions will actually go up.
So explain to me and explain to your audience, Alex, how a factory in the United States, which is producing widgets, which has the EPA crawling all over them all the time, how moving that factory to China so they can produce those widgets over there with no EPA crawling over them all the time, how does that save the planet? Tell me.
No, it ups the level of carbon, which if you look at the studies is actually good. We need to have some warming because we're going into this new ice age.
Well, I know the logic is too basic for people to understand.
I wish humans were actually had an effect and were warming, because every study shows that all plant life and animal life does better during these warming periods. Unfortunately, the sun cooled down and we're going into a cooling period.
And the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, is that the human cause of global warming or global cooling, take your pick,
less than 1%,
is a crock. It's all meant to make you think you've got to lower your standard of living.
And they brag and say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the thing. These arrogant bastards admit that this is a scam. And they think we're so ignorant we can't figure it out. Remember when I had Rothschild on 2 years ago? It's an Endgame. Yeah. And he said no. He said
he didn't even know the solar system.
I said, why are the moons of Jupiter and Saturn melting, the ones that are covered with methane ice? Why are the ice caps on Mars getting smaller? And he said, well, number one, that Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn are closer to the sun than Earth.
I heard him say
And I said, no, sir. It goes Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, and then out. And he said, no, you're wrong, and laughed at me because he knew the audience, or he thought they were. He knows the general public, he knew, is so dumbed down, just desperately dumbed down, and I got emails saying that Mars is closer to the sun.
I have been convinced by many years of watching the mainstream media that my truck is the cause of the melting of the polar ice caps of Mars. I sincerely believe that because I watch the mainstream media. I know it's my truck that did it.
Polar bears are going to drown on Mars because
absolutely, man. I'll tell you what. I mean, to believe this stuff, you got to be just not.
Well, listen, that's what Club of Rome said. We need a new religion. So we're getting rid of the Judeo-Christian system. We need to have a religion based on humans are bad so the state can wage war against humanity. I mean, that's a quote.
And the bottom line here is when you have